So I thought it would be nice to just show the autoflow. Of course, I showed it in the during the long grid lecture, but as that one is watching 2 hours of video, I thought it would be easier to just record it separately as well. So I'm using the document that I prepared during the lecture, and I made a second master page. There's 2 columns in there. This is a document grid, the baseline grid, so you can see that they're aligned, and I decided to do a 2-column layout just because it's easier to show how to autoflow. So I can either drag these master pages to my panel and it will add them, so you can see that these have master A applied to them, these have master page B applied to them. I can also insert pages and then add X amount of pages after, before, at the start of the document, etc., and then apply a specific master to them. But for now, these are enough. So as I showed you before, by the way, I added page numbers, automatic page numbering, just because maybe it gives a better overview of the amount of pages that it flows. So I'm in a regular pages, so I'm not in the master. I'm in my pages. And I want to add text. So the first thing that I'm going to show is adding text from a text file. So you can place text by pressing Command D. You can open a file. So a text file. This one I downloaded from, I think, Gutenberg project or maybe somewhere else. I slightly edited it because it started with a copyright notice that I thought was annoying. I open it, so now you see that the text is loaded to my cursor. So usually, and what maybe a lot of you have been doing, also before the grid lecture, is copy pasting, or when you load it, you can drag a text frame, and then you have to click the red plus, and then continue, and you do this until basically your arm falls off. So let's not do that. So I'm going back a couple steps. So Command Z. So again, the text is loaded to my cursor. What I'm going to do now is I press Alt. So I don't press anything else. The text is loaded to my cursor. I press Alt, and you see that this little symbol next to the loaded text, next to my cursor, is changing. So now it looks like a small text icon. Now it looks like this wavy arrow. So I keep Alt pressed, and I click the edge of my column, of my text area. And now it not only adds the text immediately, but I also don't have to click the red plus again. So, and now I can decide to maybe sometimes skip a column, etc., etc. But again, this still takes a lot of time, I feel. So I go back a couple steps, Command Z, and now I press Alt and Shift at the same time. Now you see that the symbol changes again. I do the same thing, I click. Now it loads it to the entire spread. So it fills all the columns, 4 in this case, on the spread, but I still have to manually add spreads and then click the plus and then do the same thing. So this saves me a bit of time, for sure, but it's still, this is fine if you only do a couple of spreads, but if you have to do a 200-page book or a 500-page book, that's still crazy and super annoying and also really unnecessary. So again, I go back a couple steps. So Command Z, and now instead of pressing Alt or Alt Shift, I only keep Shift pressed. So Alt, you see this symbol changes a bit to the wavy one. If I press Shift, so only Shift, there's a wavy one and there's 2 parentheses around it. So I keep the Shift pressed and now I click. And now you see that it's auto-flowing the entire text. And what InDesign will do right now is load the entire text until the end of the text. So it will add pages automatically until the end of the text. And as you can see, in this case, that is about, this is page 236. I think I started page 9. So that is a lot of pages. And it's one connected text frame. But as we talked about before, because this is a text file that we've been using, there's all these line breaks and paragraph breaks mostly in there, you know, and we don't want those because, of course, we could use find change, which I will show in another tutorial, but we can use find change to find paragraph breaks and replace them with, I don't know, for instance, spaces, but still, you have to test a couple of things, you have to really check everything because you might actually end up deleting things that you don't want to delete. So it's pretty annoying. Sometimes you only have the text file because it's the only thing you can find. Then, you know, I'm afraid that you either have to do this. So use find change, for instance. There's also a couple of online tools that you can use, but still, it's a bit more work. So I'm going back a couple steps. So instead of using a text file, I also found an HTML file. So the HTML file, I opened it in Safari. So there's an HTML file of the same book. So a journey to the interior of the earth. The only thing I do is I do Command A, so I select everything, Command C. So now the text is loaded to my clipboard. I press T, or I click the type tool, I drag a text frame, and now I press Command V. So this loads the text until the end of this text frame. Now I could, of course, do the same thing, because the thing is, you cannot place an HTML file. You can place text files, you can place RTF files, but you cannot place an HTML file. So I can, of course, now start clicking the red plus, etc., but the easiest thing actually is, a little trick is just you press the red plus, so now the remaining text, let's say the overflowing text, loads to my cursor, but now I press backspace or delete, so I delete the text frame. So now the entire text is loaded to my cursor. Now I can do either the Alt click, the Alt Shift click, or the Shift click, which I will do now. And then it will auto-flow the entire text, but now copied from the HTML file, which means that a lot of those annoying paragraph breaks that split, you know, sentences in half are gone. And now basically the entire text of my book, including the correct breaks. Of course, you know, I can already see that I would have to do some cleanup, but still this is going to save me a lot of time. And now it's 186 pages, so that is, you know, like a 50-page difference just because of the paragraph breaks. So I hope this helps a bit. It's a lot easier to do it this way. So good luck.